So my name is Deborah Boudreau. I'm the area advisor for the Vermont Small Business Development Centers. If you don't know what we do, we normally offer one-on-one, confidential, no-cost business advising to small businesses. We have been actually granted, in this case, to offer this class, and again, another one later we'll talk to you about, to help you go through this letter of intent process. Hopefully to simplify it so much that it will be a no-brainer. That's my goal tonight, to be able to give you all of the things that you need to do this well. So last time we had people who thought it was wonderful, and we had one person who thought it was too simple. So if you're that one person tonight, I apologize for making this as simple as possible, but I think it's good when things are simple rather than complex, and this is a complex process. This is my email, dboudreau@vtsbdc.org. After this class, we are here to offer one-on-one, again, confidential, no-cost advising through this process. And to help me with that, I have my two amazing colleagues, Steve Paddock and Scott Holson. They will actually be doing the one-on-one advising for this program. And I am going to pass out a request for advising form. Actually, you guys are going to pass out. And I would like you to put your email address, whether you're a nonprofit or a business, just so that we can have a sense of who that is, your name and your email address, and then we will contact you within a couple of days after this class to start setting up appointments. What we'd like you to use this first appointment for is after you've listened tonight and gotten all the details about whether this program is right for you, then we can help you drill down into the weeds of your particular project. Because tonight, I am not going to answer a lot of specific questions, maybe none, about your business in relationship to this process. If you have questions about the process while I'm talking, please just raise your hand. Gretchen is back there. She's willing to throw things at me. So if I don't, Gretchen and I have worked together a lot. So if I don't see you, Gretchen has been awarded the prize of being able to throw stuff at me. So please just get my attention and make me stop. I actually can go back to where I was, I hope. Let me see, I can. So the other people I'd like to introduce tonight is Susan McMahon is here from Windham Regional. Susan deals with municipalities, towns, nonprofits. So Susan's also an excellent resource through this project. And we have R.T. Brown, who's here. This is his first day. R.T. has just moved from out west. He's going to be, do you have an actual title?
I believe it's the Windham County Economic Development Program Project Manager.
There we go. So he's, and our acronym for this is WikiDip. Don't you love it? So R.T. is here. As I said, this is his first day. This is his first real look into what this project is like. Guys, if he starts to run, tackle him, because we need him. So just make sure he stays in the room. I have created a process for this. If anybody go through the CDBG process with me? My workshops for that? Gretchen. Okay, that was it. So Gretchen survived. That's good. So we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying, as I said, make this as simple as possible. So here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to start you off with the simplified flow chart. And we're going to sort of talk about the process in general. This process was developed for the second round of the Entergy money. I'm sure everyone in the room knows that, but I'm going to say it a little bit more probably detailed for the camera tonight. I really considered very strongly wearing a Donald Trump mask tonight, just to see how that would go over, but my colleagues talked me out of it. Last year, this process, if you followed in the paper, was a somewhat complex process involving just one application that was based on a nonprofit grant application. From my vantage point of the businesses that I dealt with, the concern was that essentially, even though any nonprofit in this room, how many nonprofits here? Okay. Any nonprofit in the room knows that you have to run a sustainable nonprofit almost exactly the same way as you run a business, but they are used to a very different application process than businesses are. I'm fond of saying that businesses speak Greek and nonprofit speaks Latin. And last year, we tried to make these Greek-speaking people speak Latin for this process, and it was complex and quite difficult. The other concern that we got last year after this process was done was that the application process itself, the full application process, was very extensive and took a long time. So how do we make this simpler? And if you look at this just on the face, you're going to go, didn't they make it more complicated? No. We created, at the request of both businesses and nonprofits, a letter of intent. So this class tonight is simply about how to write the letter of intent. Now, I'm going to talk about what you need to do that, but the goal is that even though you're going to have to think your project all the way through to the end, at least you don't have to go through the whole complex application process, so that hopefully your project will get a yes or a no at the LOI stage rather than having to go through the full process. And we can shorten your time of investment and resources into this process before you hear a no. Because as you know, last year, a lot of people went through the process and there were way many more no's than there were yeses. So we tried to create this process. So tonight we're going to look at just that with somewhat of an eye to what the whole process is going to look like. I like to say that it's really important whenever you undertake anything like this to make sure that you have the time and the resources to do it. To know whether it's going to be you as the owner of the company or nonprofit, the executive director of the nonprofit who's going to do it, or do you have a staff person that you can give it to? How much time is it going to take you, and what's the end result going to be? What's your return on investment? And you may decide at the end of this that this is a business decision, is not right for you, maybe this round. Remember, this is round 2. There are going to be 3 more. So, I am going to say that it's really imperative that you go to this site, accd.vermont.gov/business/WCGP. You can also get there by the website that I've given you in the worksheet when I give that to you, that just to go windham.org will get you there to the same place. It has everything about this entire process. That's where this class will be if you want to watch it again for any masochistic reason that you'd like to see this again. You want to go there. One of the first things you want to do is you want to read through all the material, because that's what's going to give you, in conjunction with meeting with one of these guys or someone else that's a resource in this room. Although we have been tasked with doing the one-on-one, so hit us up first, because that's what we're here for. And both of these guys have dedicated time to do this. Whether this is, again, the right business decision for you to make at this time. So if you're a business, I want you to review also the VITA loan application. And if you're a nonprofit, you need to review the RFP and the full grant. Let's hand them out the worksheet. I'd like you not to go ahead of me if you can help yourself.
The worksheet?
I know. Yeah, we're going to hand out that first. So I'm going to give you 2 things next. I'm going to give you the CEVED's goals. We're going to talk about how that impacts this process. And I'm going to give you the worksheet that I've created so that you can follow through with this program. As you know, part of your first piece of this, one of the most important parts, is that you meet the CEVED's goals and objectives. Does anybody in here not know what CEVED's is? I mean, some days I don't think I know, so don't feel badly about raising your hands. But it's this is the group who came together and said, things are changing economically in Windham County, and Vermont Yankee is going to close. So what's going to happen to us? And they were able to get some federal money to write what's called the CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. That has been completed. They did an enormously good job in getting around to all of the towns in the region, holding public hearings, gathering a lot of material. So the first part of this project, the LOI for this year, is based on 2 of the objectives. It's based on Objective 3 and Objective 5. you would be really smart to go and read the section of the SEDS report. You can read the whole thing, it's fascinating reading, but go specifically to the objectives and look at number 3 and 5. Next year, the objectives could change. So whatever project you do needs to satisfy one of these objectives. So that's the difference between this and just going out for a regular business loan or a different set of funding. Objective 3 and 5 become your Bible. I'm going to narrow it down for you, though, and I'm going to tell you here's the most important thing of this whole process. You're going to repeat this after me. I keep picking up markers that have different colors on them. Job creation. Those are your 2 most important words tonight. We're going to add a couple of other words to it later. But this, if you do not have a project, whether it's as a business for a loan or a grant proposal for a nonprofit that does not create jobs, doesn't matter. It's not going to work for this program. This money is entirely about, repeat after me, creation. There we go. Yes.
There are later rounds for the letter of intent submissions, correct?
So I'll go over the calendar. What's happening right now is your letter of intent for both businesses and nonprofits is due on October 13th. That's on this page. If you look at your simplified process chart. So your letter of intent is due 10/13/15. Why did we give you all of September and part of October to do this? Because regardless of the fact that this is a shorter document than a full application, you need to go and look at all of that material because the LOI, the letter of intent, needs to match ultimately your application. You can't do an LOI for one thing, get it accepted, and when you put your application in, do something different because your application will get turned down. So you've got to take these a little over 6 weeks and you've got to look at this process very carefully all the way through to the end to see whether, again, this is the right thing for you to do. At that point, it goes to the WCEDP advisory, the council for approval. I'm going to give you the list of the council members at the end of this. They will approve it based on the scoring for business applications at the end and grant applications, which I'll go through very specifically when I get there. They have 2 weeks to do it, and then they bring it to the ACCD, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. They have 2 weeks. So on 11/10, you're going to hear whether your LOI has been accepted or not. If it's a no, you're going to pull out and you're going to come into next round if you're a grant, if you're a nonprofit. If you're a business, the business application point after that is rolling. So it doesn't have, but the grants each year over the next 4 rounds that are left, there will be an RFP announcement, there will be an LOI deadline, and a grant application deadline. So the grant application deadline is 12/21 of this year. You won't hear about the governor's decision until next March because they're going to take some real time to look at this. So LOI goes in. You'll hear by 11/10. We created somewhat of an artificial deadline for the businesses because we have to teach this class again. So we are having a class at the end of November and the beginning of one right after at the beginning of December. But you'll get those dates later. You don't have to worry about them at all now because you don't know whether your LOI has been accepted. And then that process is kind of open-ended. Because then you have to go through VEDA, which is the Vermont Economic Development Authority, to see whether your project can be underwritten, just like you would go through any bank. So the same pieces will apply to that loan package development piece as they would if you were going through any banking situation. And again, I'll get into the details of that a little bit more. But if you're a grant, don't expect this money until next year. Hopefully, as we've worked out the details this year, we're hoping that next year the RFP is going to come out a whole lot earlier so that the entire process can be complete and you'll get money in 2016 for round 3 as well. Fingers crossed. From that point on, businesses will always be rolling. Okay, yes?
2 questions.
Sure.
You said under the objectives that the LOI needs to satisfy either, okay? And nonprofits are applying for grants only.
Nonprofits can apply for grants and/or loans. So if you're a nonprofit, I want you to stay through this entire process. I've done this really silly thing, and yes, it's true, but I've carried through this entire thing. If you're a business, things are red. If you're a nonprofit, they're blue. If you have to do them regardless, it's purple. And you're going to get these sheets that are actually color-coded because I really did want to make this simple. If you are a grant and you're going to do a loan, you're going to do all of this stuff for grants and you're going to do the business side of this application as well. And so you're going to be doing 2 things. One of the goals, and we're hoping at the point of the approval, the LOI approval, is one of the things that the governor felt last year was that there could have been some partnerships created that would have made applications stronger. So one of our T's jobs is going to be to look at all of these things and see, is there some way that if we put you guys together in a different configuration, it might help. So again, I'll talk about more details about that at the moment. If you can't meet the full requirements of the application process, it would be much smarter for you to pull out and do it next time. I'm just going to be frank. And if you're not doing, you guys aren't saying it after me. I've got my best Vanna White going here. Job creation. Thank you very much. If you're not doing that, then it's really not a relevant application. I say to people when they look at where the money comes from, when people say to me, should I do this? I say, trail back to the beginning of where the money originates from. In this case, it's originating from the Entergy people who are saying, the governor said to them, you're going to be pulling out, you need to help us with economic development. So in economic development, job creation is a huge piece. So although there are, numerous wonderful projects, might not be right for this one. So, we've given you the summary, we've given you this. Can we pass out the checklist, please? Thank you. This is your Bible. You're getting this next. This is the checklist that will say whether your application is complete. If you hand in the application and it's not complete, you'll have a couple of days, maybe, if RT is feeling generous. Do not hand in your application on 10/12 and expect to get it back with time to correct it if it's incomplete. You're better to get it in sooner and let RT take a look at it because he's going to be the first line. He doesn't know that yet, but he is going to be the first line to make sure that everything on this list is checked off. So this becomes your Bible, this checklist. And again, it's purple, everyone needs to do it. If it's red, pink, businesses need to do it. If it's blue, nonprofits need to do it. I suggest that you make another copy of this and you use one through the process to decide whether, to check off your progress and figure out where you are. And then the very last day before you're handing it in, you recheck everything off. Because RT's going to use this, and he's going to go down through, and he's going to go, do I have this? Do I have this? Check, 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 check. He's going to cross-hatch this thing, probably. And that's how he's going to know. And then this is going to follow through to the council. And again, if you get to that point and it's still not complete, that says something about your ability to produce the project, quite frankly. And part of the scoring is based on whether you have the capacity to do the project. You can't get the application right, what does that say? It's kind of like, it's pretty standard stuff. So we're going to use this as we go through the process. I'm on page 1 of the worksheet. I literally have created forms for you to use. I'm going to start handing those out. In this worksheet that you can keep with you, if there are instructions, it's in a box. If it has a big star next to it, I've created a form for you. And the naming protocol for your files, because you're going to submit this all electronically. I wish these were fillable PDFs, but we're working on that right now. And if we get that really quickly, we'll get them out to you. If not, you're just going to save these, fill them in and send them back. Or you can even handwrite them, I'll tell you. If you have clear handwriting, that's going to be acceptable. But you're going to name them using the naming protocol, just because you're going to make everybody's life a lot easier if you do that. Okay. I'm going to address the criteria again in a second. All projects must occur in Windham County. It's another thing that's extremely important. You may not be centered yourself in Windham County, but you must serve the residents and businesses of Windham County. There's absolutely no getting around that particular one. Eventually, if you get, and you should know this now, remember I'm saying you need to look at the whole process to make sure you want to do this. Eventually, even as a business applicant, a majority of your application will be public. That doesn't mean that the ACCD is putting up all of your information, but it does mean that the Freedom of Information Act applies. So if someone wanted to go in and view your application, the state will have to give it to them, unless it's marked confidential. So last time, the few businesses that did this process marked their financial information, their projections, their very discrete financial information confidential. It has to be written on the page that it's confidential. I will tell you, however, that if you mark the entire application confidential, it will not be considered. So some of this process has to be transparent. So again, you just want to consider, last year we had someone who went, this is a kind of proprietary thing and I don't really want anyone to be able to find this out. They decided not to do the process. So again, that's another consideration that you just want to make sure that you consider at this point. Okay. I'm going to read the program objectives, even though I've bolded it on page 3. The WCEDP is meant to promote economic development in Windham County by providing funds to stimulate job creation through business startup, expansion, or relocation, encourage entrepreneurial activity, and strengthen the economic development infrastructure to ensure a strong foundation for transformational economic activity. The primary focus of the program will be private sector, thank you, and retention, and direct support of entrepreneurial activities, followed by support of economic development systems and activities that encourage an entrepreneurial, innovation, and business startup environment and culture. Was that a mouthful? Yes, it was. So, but you want to look at that, because that's the goal of this process. This is a business grant situation. Your LOI should be short, sweet, and to the point. When I've given you a half a page to answer that, I've given you a half a page to answer it because that's how long it should be. Take out all the adjectives. Take out the we are the best, we are the brightest, we are the most amazing. This is a business document. If you've gotten awards, then there's maybe a place to note that, but that's really for the application process. You need to look at this as the most streamlined version, because you want to make it easy for the people who are reading it to read it, and you will have time later on, if you pass the process, to give them much more material. But again, business document, I'm always fond of saying when someone asks me about a loan package development, I say, or a business plan competition, I say after you get it done, find the brightest 6th grader you can and have them read it. If they don't understand it, do it again, because you've been too convoluted. One of the things that people say to us all the time is, when I went to the bank, they didn't understand me. And our refrain is, that's not the bank's fault, that's your fault. The bank didn't understand you, it's because you weren't clear. So this document needs to be clear and concise. So again, I've given you these worksheets. partly to show you, I mean, if you don't want to use them, you don't have to. You can copy them and do them something else. But I'm showing you the length of stuff that it should be in. Wherever you can bullet, bullet. If you don't need complete sentences, don't give them to them. All right, so you've got your list. In terms of scoring, this, again, you're going to get some more material on this, but this is going to show you on the loan side how important it is. You're going to see this on the bottom of page 3. For loans, job creation is 60 points of your application. The other 40 is that you meet objective 3 and 5. Additionally, they are going to look at return on investment. So that's the project in relationship to the size of the loan requested. Here's the simple math on that. If you ask for a $200,000 business loan, the cap for business loans is $350,000. The minimum is $25,000. The minimum grant application is $25,000 with no cap. Last time people asked us how much of the fund is going to go to businesses and how much nonprofit. What we're hearing, and it hasn't been told to us exactly, but I've heard it more than once, is 75% is loans and 25% to nonprofits. So 60 points job creation, 40 points CEVEDS objectives. If you go in for a $200,000 job and you create a $200,000 loan and you create one job, that one job in their mind has cost them $200,000. If you go in for a $200,000 loan and you're creating 10 jobs, now we're getting someplace. Now we've got $20,000 creates a job, not $200,000 creates a job. So you have to think about that. We're going to help you objectify that in a way that we can do one sentence. But they are going to look at what's the impact of this money. Because again, it's a limited amount of money. It's a region that needs some help. So they're going to use the biggest bang for their buck. It's that simple. Grants have, their scoring is broken down much more explicitly with a lot more. Again, this is why businesses are happier this year. They've got 2 things to consider, plus a return on investment, and not the bazillion things that grants have to do. Okay, page 4. Let's hand them out the cover sheet, please. You'll notice it's purple on the top. That's because you both have to do it. You are going to use this cover sheet because, again, that's going to be important to just use it. How am I doing taping-wise? We doing okay? You catching me? Okay, good. I used to be a grade school teacher. Drop something at the back of the room and listen to how far I can throw my voice. I was walking in a mall one day and these kids were in front of me, and I don't usually sort of do this, but these kids were in front of me way like about where the windows were. And, you know, I'm a little vertically challenged and, you know, I may look sweeter than I actually am. No one laughed at that. Gretchen, come on!
I won't tell.
Thank you very much. And they dropped like 2 muffins and they just kept going. And I yelled, you know, with my teacher's voice, went, pick it up, like really loud. And they turned around to look for who it was and like they didn't even think it was me. They picked it up though. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, applicant organization, your mailing address, not your physical location, your city, your state, your website, obviously. If you have collaborators, and again, remember I said one of the things they want to encourage is collaboration, especially on the nonprofit side. You're going to fill out that information on another sheet, but you're going to pick a project lead, whether you're doing it just for yourself or you're doing it as a collaboration. You're not going to make RT contact 15 different people. You're going to make him contact 1. They want the name, the title of that person, their phone and extension, and their email. Then your tax filing status. So am I an LLC? Am I a nonprofit? Am I a 501c3? What kind of nonprofit are you? Are you an S Corp, a C Corp, a sole proprietor? That's what goes there. What does Uncle Sam look for when he looks for you? And then your DUNS number. Does anybody not have a DUNS number in the room? And don't be upset, most people don't. DUNS numbers? Okay. So DUNS numbers, there's some on page 4 is the beginning. Page 4 to page 5 tells you how to get a DUNS number. There are a couple of different ways. What you have to do on the bottom of page 4 is have those things ready with you, whether you're applying online or you're doing it on the phone. So you need to have the legal name of your business, where your headquarters are, and in this case, it's your physical location. If you're doing business as a DBA, you need to have that information. Your mailing address, if it's separate from your physical address, your telephone number, your contact and title, the number of employees at your physical location, and whether you're home-based. So have all of that information ready.
If you have a DUNS number.
Yes.
In a different address, and you've moved, do you have to get another one?
No, but you probably should let DUNS know that you've moved. So people who did the CDBG application have a DUNS number, other people have DUNS numbers. It's a system of rating businesses that is used internationally. But anytime you get grant money, it's usually attached to that. While you are doing your online application or your phone application, at least 5 or 6 times during that process, it's going to pop up on your screen. To get an expedited DUNS number, pay $49.95. To get more of this and this and this, pay $699. The person on the phone is going to stop and go, do you want an expedited number? The answer to all of those questions is, my business advisor, and you can use my name, please don't. Just say, my business advisor, Deborah, said I don't have to do any of this. A DUNS number is free. If you go out of this class and you just decide to get one, it's going to come within 10 days. You've got plenty of time. Do not let them try to talk you into anything else. A DUNS number should cost you $0. As a small business and a small, the size of nonprofits we have in this room, you need nothing else but that number for this application, and probably won't use it again. They will call you for the next 6 months. This is what I do with the DUNS salesman. Thank you, no. Thank you, no. Thank you, no. Eventually they'll get the point. But you are going to have to do that about 6 times. They are of the marketing school of market to you until you die, or tell them to stop. Tell them to stop before you die. Just say no. Just keep hanging up the phone. Because really, they're vicious salespeople, those DUNS people. But there are 2 ways of doing it, and you have both of those. Just have your information ready, and you should be fine, and you'll get it in plenty of time. Your NAICS number is another kind of code. We are experts at finding it. So when you come to the appointment, and I really, again, encourage you to take us up on this offer of a free first appointment. The appointments are free forever.
They are?
They are. If Scott tells you he gets paid, he's kidding. But he'll try, no. We're not opposed to being bribed with, coffee and donuts, What? Coffee. Granola. We can be bought just a little bit. The NICS code is a rating system that the government does that tells you what category you're in. If you'd like to go into the NICS codes, I say they're fascinating. It's kind of like reading Russian literature. You're like, serious? They created a code for this? It's kind of fun. But if you don't want to have that kind of fun, you've got much better things to do, or you don't have insomnia, let us help. The company abbreviation is the abbreviation you're going to use in the naming protocol, so that we're going to create, because JT's here just for a day and he's already amazed at the number of acronyms Vermont has, and we've pointed out to him that his name is an acronym, so he really can't give us too much garbage about that. But you're now going to create another acronym for JT to remember, so RT, I'm sorry. So you're going to need to put it here so that, again, when you do this naming protocol, it's going to be in there. Okay, so that's that. Let's give them the page 2, the project description. This is pretty easy. This is the physical location of the project. Where's the project have to be? In Windham County. There we go, thank you. You're going to write a short description of the project, very short. Why did I give you those many lines? Because I mean very, very short. And then you're going to write a description. I can be overcome by Amtrak. This is where you go through the entire process. You look at the full application, you come back and you say, can I come up with a project from a grant standpoint or a loan standpoint that does number 3 plus 5, well, this is really and or, job creation, and job creation within those. Can I come up with something that does that? If I can, what does that sound like? So the difference between this, if you're a business and applying for a regular loan, is that you don't have to explain that to the bank. All you're doing is trying to create a good loan package that says, I have this project, it's to buy a new building, or to add a piece of machinery, or to, do marketing, whatever that is, with a specific objective of growing your business. This program adds this. Why? Because they're going to lend you money at 2% rather than the going rate. So you're going to get a better percentage rating on this money. That's why this is worth considering. Frankly, that's why. At the top of each page, you're going to put the name of the applicant, please. Here's what I say. When you're looking at this kind of material, when you're job hunting, back in the days when the executive directors in here may still job hunt from time to time, but the small business owners, when you were back in the days of looking for a job, you looked at the job posting and you looked at the keywords, and if you were really good at it, you took your resume and you worked those keywords into your resume. So you're going to work the keyword of job creation. Steve's going to add another word to job creation that starts with a T.
Transformational.
There we go. So as we've sat in the meeting, and I'm on the WCEDP Council, I'm a non-voting member. I asked to be non-voting because I don't want to teach you guys how to do this and then sit in judgment of the applications after. So I'm on the council, trying to, talk about what you guys need. That's why I'm there. But in these meetings, they have been talking about transformational. So in that way, I would say the words transformational. Can you write transformational on here for me? Yes, you can. Scott can. Scott spells well. Transformational is I'm not just creating this one job for this one moment in time, but I'm creating a job that's going to impact things in a different way. Or I'm creating a job now that because I created this job is going to lead to this job. If you look at objective 3, part of it is about raising the wage shed. It's about saying, we don't want to just keep adding, minimum wage jobs. We want to add jobs that have some heft to them so people can stay here and live and enjoy living here and the quality of life that we have here. So how do we do that? So think as you're doing this about how to say things like, I'm creating this many jobs. That would be my first sentence of my short description. And they're transformational jobs because they're going to lead to this, this, and this. So look at the key words in that program objectives that I read you. I will say, because nobody's here in the room that wrote that if you showed me that is the description of your project, I'd take about 20 of those words out of there. So use that as an example of how you could edit a little more strongly. Just saying. Okay, let's do the project timeline and goals worksheet. One of the things they want to know, again, because this money is finite and we have an immediate economic problem with Vermont Yankee leaving, is how fast is this going to happen? For the business loan side of it, eventually they will want you to use the money within 9 months of you getting the loan approved. They want to see this money. Why do they want to do that? They want it to turn fast. If you have a project that isn't going to start until 2016 and you don't think you're going to spend the money until 2017, wait for another round. They want this to be immediate. They want the impact of this money to be as quick as they possibly can. So that's part of the timeline. So if you give them a timeline, a narrative of the timeline that says, I'm going to do this, and by the end of year 5, I will add 3 people, No. By the end of the first year, I will add 3 people is going to get you more attention. So time is a little bit of the essence here in terms of this project. So what are the goals and objectives? What are the objections? What are the objectives? And again, if I were writing this and I knew that the 7 objectives were 3 and 5, I'd be using some of that terminology in my objectives and my goals. Just like I'd pull out that they want a business manager rather than a restaurant manager if I'm doing my resume over. So think about what these are again. And then how quickly can it be done? What's the timeline and implementation of the project? Now, this is not a finite timeline. This is a timeline of, this is the beginning of the project. I'm going to use this money because the loan money can be used for real estate, equipment, and working capital. I'm going to rent a bigger space and I'm going to hire 3 people, and the product that we're talking about is going to be ready to be shipped in, or the service is going to be provided, in the next 6 or 8 months. What are the major things that you're going to do? Well, first you've got to find the space, you've got to complete the process, you've got to hire the people, you've got to ship the first product. They're looking for big in this one. They'll be looking for a much more complex one if you get past this process. But what are the major things you're going to do and when you're going to do them? So make a list of to-do things that you have to do and then go back and put them in units. What's the big thing that I have to do here? You're not going to tell them that to hire someone, you're going to write a job description, you're going to post it on Indeed, you're going to post it on Vermont. You're not telling them that. You're going to hire 2 people. Okay? The grants do not have the same 9-month ability to, the same 9-month deadline, but you're going to want to make sure that you are keeping your eye on how quickly it will happen. Okay. Can we have the sources and use chart, please?
You want them handed out?
Yes, please. I would love them handed out. Everybody okay? We doing okay? I'm going to try to get you out of here a little bit before 8.
Money will be distributed when?
If you're a loan, if you get through the LOI process and you come to the first class, so you're going to get notified by 11:10 that your LOI has been accepted. The first class is in November, and then there's one at the very beginning of December. It's like third week of November, and then one in the first week in December. As soon as you can get that application in, then VITA will go through the underwriting process. VITA will then send the package to the ACCD and say this loan can be underwritten. And then the ACCD will look at it and decide whether they think it meets all of the criteria again. It's kind of just a last step on the process, double check again. Depends on how, where VITA is in that process, but I would suspect that you'll see money sometime in the first quarter of 2016. That's my guess. Do not hold me to that because I'm not the manager of this project. But I would suspect that you'll get it sometime then. And it will dispense, much like a construction loan, if anybody's ever had a construction loan or has done any loans like this, unless it's a discrete project that's going to be, you've asked for one thing and it's going to be done in one fell swoop, then you'll get all of the money. If it's a project like the one I described, where first you've got to find the space and you've got to sign the lease and then you've got to, look for the people and now you've got to hire them and train them, and then that money will dispense as you spend it. It won't be one just blank check. It won't be just one great big check. And there will be reports that you need to do after the fact of this money. There will be check-ins to see if you've used it the way you've said you were going to use it. So it differs a little bit in a bank loan. Once you get a bank loan, what they're worried about is that their monthly payment comes in. Not that you don't want to continue having a relationship with your bank, you do, but in this there's going to be a little bit more oversight. And on the grant side, you guys are going to experience the same kind of quarterly reporting system that you're used to now for any other funding that you get.
And dispersion the same?
Grant dispersion, I don't think you're going to see grant money, frankly. You're not even going to get the announcement until 3/18. I don't think you're going to see grant money until the second quarter of 2016. Yes, question?
Forgive me if you
No, please.
said this. So how much do you expect to be dispersed in this round?
$2 million is the cap of what will be dispersed. Last time, there were, as you may have remembered, there were, and you can go online and look, and I think this is a really good thing to do too, frankly. If you go to this page, one of the first things that at the very top is a disbursement of funds to date, and below that, there's a list of who applied last year and whether they got the money or not, and that short description of their project. I'd look at that if I were you. That's like looking at your competitors and seeing what they did and how it worked or it didn't work. Last year, the WCEDP, which is the board that will get involved after on the grant side, down in this more extended version, WCEDP, all of the grant applications will go to WCEDP. The WCEDP board will score them. Then there'll be a public hearing. That date is to be determined, but all of that will happen so that grant announcements can be on 3/18. So last year, WCEDP recommended that there's I think of the 2 million, that almost 1.9 million of it be dispersed, and the governor came in and said, no, we're going to disperse about $900,000 of it. So this year, the 2 million is still there. This year's 2 million is still there, and there's a little left over from last year. Vermed got some money, as you might have noticed in the paper. A couple of other projects have gotten some things in the interim. So I would suspect that, we're going to try to disperse the 2 million. The Entergy money is coming in $2 million blocks for the 5 years. It was a $10 million award settlement, and it's coming in 2 million units. Okay, sources and use. This is where these guys are going to be your best friend. If you've never done a sources and use, this is the thing that usually makes all of our clients run for the hills. This is where the math hits the project. The finances hit the how does it really work? So these guys do them every day. I do them too, but as I said, these are going to be your direct advisors on this project. I'm going to be the lead, which is why you're going to always be contacting me. But, once you start a relationship with these guys, then you'll contact them directly. But, if you have any immediate first round questions, you can come to me and I'll send them out as I need to. But this is how we're going to use the financing. This is where the money's going to come from, and this is how we're going to use it. So those two numbers have to meet. If you're saying the project is $200,000, or say the project is $1 million, but this fund is only going to give you on the loan side $350,000, then the total project cost could be $1 million, and the loan request could be $350,000. Now, where's that $350,000 going to come from? Because 100% of it on the loan side is not going to come from this program. We'll talk about exactly where it's coming from in a second, how much those percentages are. But then where are you going to fill the rest in? Or if it's a grant-funded project, how big is the whole project, and is this the whole grant that you're going for, or is it a piece of the project, and where does the rest of it come from? Because what they want to make sure of is that they don't give you money. Say your project is $1 million, and this will only give you $350,000 on the loan side, or a portion of that, and $300,000 on the grant side. Where's the rest of that come from? If they don't have great confidence that can be filled in, then you're probably not going to pass, because they're not going to give you money that's going to sit someplace again unused and not have immediate impact. So you have to think about the whole project, and the sources and use is the short way of showing people how you're going to do that. Here's the source of our funds, and here's the use of our funds. In this case, unlike most business loans for startups anyway, working capital is allowed. So you can use the funding for land, buildings, equipment, remodeling, inventory, working capital, and other. On the loan side of it, I'm going to wait for a second to talk about that. I'll go back to how much you can use. But again, this is what we do all day long. So when you get to this point, this is where these guys really are going to come in handy. to help you do the sources and use and make sure that you've identified everything that you need to do. Okay? And again, don't forget, a nonprofit can do both loans and grants. So you might have a combination on your sheet. You might have some loan pieces coming in, some grant pieces coming in. Again, these guys can help you figure out which one. All right, hand out the verification, please. So why did they make you sit here and listen to me tonight? Because they don't like you. No. Because hopefully I'm making this process a little more simplified, and then really when you get down into the weeds of your own business, these guys can help a lot. But you have to verify that you've done this. So if you've done it in person, you're going to say which location you took it at, and you're going to, if you take it online, you're going to put that you took it online. This is the honor system. We don't have to sign this tonight. We're not giving you, they can see the list of people who attended, and we will be capturing the names, obviously, of people who watch it online. Are they going to double check this? Most likely not. So this is the honor system, and you do need to enclose this in your application. So you do need to scan this and attach it that you've done this. Because if you haven't, then they're going to say, sorry, you don't know everything you need to know, and they're going to send you back to square one. All right, so now we're at loans only, but please nonprofits stay put. I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can. Now, does this feel a little bit repetitive? Yes, a little tiny bit, but you are going to have to say again how the loan, the project will result in entrepreneurial activity. So this is, the project description is the overall project description. This is, how does it result in entrepreneurial activity? So this particular project meets this in what way? So that's going to be a little wordsmithing, but again, once we see the whole project, we can help you narrow that down a little bit. Then here's where you write a short description of your capacity to and experience for executing this project. In the full application, you can add a resume if you want. This is where your awards would be. If you're if you are producing a product and it's won the award for that product category for the past 5 years, this is where I'd say that. Otherwise, I would say we have been in business for X number of years. We currently have this many employees. We produce these things. This project is totally in line with what we do already. We're just, we're expanding our capacity, or we're adding a new product line, so this is where you sort of build the history of who you are. And why, when they look at this, they're going to have complete confidence that you can do this project. It's like in government funding, if you go to do government contracting, they don't really want to look at a business that hasn't been in business for 3 years. Because they know there's sort of a tipping point there, that if you've made it to 3 years, you've got a real chance of continuing. So the government isn't going to contract with you if you're a brand new business. So this is kind of the same thing. This is where you sort of build, who am I and why can I do this project? And then this is the statement at the bottom of how the project will impact the region in relationship to the amount requested. So that's that return on investment piece that they're looking for. What are we going to do? 200,000 one job, 200,000 10 jobs. Again, we're going to look at, and again, we're going to try to help you. I wish I could tell you that we know what number they're looking for, but we don't. So we're going to look at what we think. I can tell you if it's $200,000 for one job, that's a no. I can already tell you that. Do we know whether they want to spend $20,000 for each job created? We don't know that. So we're going to look at each project individually. And again, if there's a transformational piece, then that's gonna spice it up a little bit. We are now going to hand out the job creation and retention sheet. And if there was any piece of paper that shows you that we mean business on jobs, this is it. Now, if you're asking yourself why the nonprofits are doing this, they are doing this in their full grant application. They don't have to do this sheet at this point, but it is part of their full application. So don't feel businesses that you've been singled out. They just want to know on the business side, right up front, what this is. So from an LOI standpoint, this matters to them a lot. You've seen that on the grant side, and again, probably 25% of the funds given out will be in grants. On the grant side, they're looking for a lot more things like program development and other things that have scores to them. But job creation on the loan side is 60 points. So that's why you're having to say this right up front. You have a question?
Yes, a balance between retention and creation.
Creation. If you're going to do a loan that says we're going to this loan is going to help us retain our current staff.
What about advancing higher salaries, et cetera?
My gut, you don't have as good a chance as if you have job creation. So singularly, if that was all you were doing, I would say no. That's my gut. But, and I'm a lot tougher than some of the other people who are sitting on the panel, but I'm telling you, in the end, it's going to be about job creation. So you're going to say, this is job category. So if you have weights, if you're a restaurant, I'm just using this as an example, and you're going to build onto your building, and it's going to increase, seating capacity by 50 seats because you're in a place where there's lots of entrepreneurial activity happening, and people who come in to train and spend the day or doing whatever don't have any place to eat, and so you're going to do that and satisfy that. Plus, you're going to create, 3 new wait staff jobs. You don't have to put wait staff. Job category is wait staff. And you're going to have 3 people created in year 1, and you're going to retain the 15 that you already have. In year 2, you're probably going to add 1 more. You probably wouldn't add another 3 people in year 2 if that was the scenario. But again, it's categories. It's not individual jobs.
Do these have to be full-time jobs, or can they be part-time jobs?
Here's the thing. This is a competitive process. So if you're going in for 1 half-time job and somebody on the other side of the room is going in for 10 full-time jobs, they're just going to wait that. Now, if there is not a lot of applications, here's what we don't know right now. If there aren't a lot of applications for 10 full-time jobs, so a good deal of, there's not going to be one company that's going to get the $350,000 loan. I can't tell you that. I don't know what the mix is going to look like yet. So should you do it? Again, that's looking at the entire process, looking at who's going to do it. When we talked to people last year who did the entire grant application workshop, they said about an average of 50 hours to do the full application. I would tell you from my experience with small business owners, a VITA application, 40. So again, do you have 50 or 40 hours to take out of your existing business? That's a business decision. Most people did it at night and on weekends, to tell you the truth, like all business owners do things outside of the, and most executive directors work those kind of hours too. So you're just going to have to, we can't tell you the mix yet. And unfortunately, you're not going to know what the mix is until they post what the LOIs are, so that's too late to decide whether to enter. So you're going to look at the whole process and make your own, each one of you is going to make a specific business decision based on your own situation. That's another place where these guys can help. This is a great sounding board to say, does this make any sense? Should I bother to do this? I'll tell you, we had the class on the 11th, and we've already had a couple of people withdraw who said, who stood back and looked at the whole process and said, not for me, not this year. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. That's just a valid business decision. Okay. So if you're doing a business LOI, you're done at this point. You've got a 7-page application, including the cover sheet. Much shorter than the full VITA application. The full VITA application is going to be a full narrative of your business in all of the standard ways that a business plan does it, with, marketing and competition, operations and locations, all of those things, plus 3 years of financial projections based on the project going forward. So again, go look at that VITA application and look. I'm going to hand out the loan application terms and conditions, just so that you have them. And again, for you, any of you nonprofits that are looking at them, here's the most important thing. Again, we restate what has to happen at the beginning. Project can proceed, not totally use the funds, but proceed within 9 months. There are 3 things that they will finance. They will finance property for 10 years, so building, real estate acquisition for 10. They'll do machinery and equipment for 7. The loan term will be amortized on 15 years. This is getting really into the weeds. Machinery and equipment on 7 years. Working capital for 5 years. This is a 2% fixed amount on all 3 of those categories. That's where the savings comes in if you want to do this whole process. Is that now? Here's the big piece. 90% of the funds of the $350 can be lent to you if you are eligible for the Entrepreneurial Loan Fund. And you can look up the Entrepreneurial Loan Fund definition on the VITA website. And then you would need 10% from other sources. Other projects, which is frankly going to be the majority of you, this program will lend you up to 60%. So you're going to get 2% on 60% of your project. So if you need $100,000 for the total project, you're going to get $60,000 from here. You're going to need 40 from somewhere else. So then you just do the math again and say, is it worth it for me to do it for this amount of money? So you're going to need 60% from this and 40% from other sources. And VITA itself might consider part of that 40%, but they're not going to pick up the whole thing in their regular loan program. So the grant side, you have to take the scoring sheet and you have to write a sentence or 2 about how this project meets each one of the scoring criteria. And as I said, you guys have 12 scoring categories where the businesses have the 2. The businesses have job creation for 60 points and meeting the SEDS objectives for 40 points. The grant side has 12. So if you're going to do a loan and a grant as a nonprofit, you're going to have to do both, as I said, both of these pieces of paperwork, because the scoring criteria is different for them. So they're looking for, they want to see a little bit more about leveraging other programs. They have, they want to look at unmet program needs. They want to do some assistance to those adversely affected by the VY closing. They've got long-term viability. I mean, in the end, it all sort of comes down to the same things, but they're not going to make the businesses break it down the way grants are normally used to doing it. And then the last page, the description of collaboration. They want you, if you're going to collaborate, you're going to do one of these pages for each collaborator. And remember, I said you can have as many collaborators as you want. You're going to have one lead project person. But they want to know the role of each one of the collaborators, their involvement to the process, and how much resources they can allocate. So if you're bringing in 2 nonprofits, is one of you going to provide the physical location and the other is going to provide a staff person? Is one of you going to be taking an existing program and expanding it and bringing in this other nonprofit that has this expertise is going to make the program reach deeper, more widespread, going to be able to bring your, whatever the program is, to more people? So by combining, how does that deepen the impact again of this money, of you getting this money? So again, you're going to want to look at each person's role, involvement, and the resources that they're allotting. So you're going to want to make sure that all of those people have thought about this project with you, and you're going to want to do the application together.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Hello?
For collaborators, is there a
Hey,
in
I'm in a
Windham
meeting right
County?
now. Can I call you back around 8:30? Okay, bye-bye.
Is there a Windham County preference for collaborators as well? I mean, I'm thinking of other nonprofits in Vermont who could be helpful.
No, I think, again, what's important is that the population that you serve with the program is in Windham County. So no, if you've got a collaborator from, you know, from Chittenden County that can, you know, really add substance to a program that you have by either something that they've already done, or they're bringing you in a set of skills that your staff may not have.
You'd want to know about those.
Yes, you want, yes, because in the grants, what's going to happen is the same thing that happened last year. You're going to go through this entire process. You're going to pass the VEPC board and the public hearing. They're going to make recommendations to Governor Shumlin, and then he's going to make the final determination. So I think in that case, the more statewide it is, with a real, you know, with the focus being that Windham County gets increased viability, is not a bad thing. And frankly, I mean, in the nonprofits that I'm working for, the whole trend is about collaboration anyway. You know, as funds get, you know, as the federal government stops doing more and more entitlement programs, what I'm seeing with the nonprofits that I work with is the strain on the current funders, whether they're private or local, is getting greater. So the whole thing of results-based accountability that everybody in Vermont is going to have to go to, which is, here's what I said my results are going to be, and here's how I'm being accountable for those, that's going to continue. I mean, and I think what I'm seeing more and more with the nonprofits I work with is there's less and less money going to keeping the lights on. The money that people are giving, they want to see programs. They want to see impact and reach. So you need to figure out a way to be sustainable to keep your own lights on. That's the trend, because as money gets scarce, that's always the trend. We want impact for our dollars. So yes, anything that you can do in that case is much more important. Can we hand up the council? So here's the council. Here's the first people who'll be looking at that LOI application. How are they going to grade it? They're literally going to grade it. They're going to take the business LOIs and they're going to put it up against the 60 and 40, and then they're going to make some narrative comments about return on investment, and they're going to grade you 1 to 5, because they're not going to dig down. They're going to look at these applications, these LOIs very clearly, which is why we're trying to make their jobs easier. They're going to look at this, and if you get a passing grade, which is 70 points out of 100, you're going to pass. That's what they've decided to do. So it's going to be kind of a, you know, if you get a C, you're going to be fine. Then it's going to go to the ACCD, and how they grade it is going to be up to them. And they are, again, they have not shared that anymore. They're going to put it up against, you know, I mean, they're not pulling it out of the hat, guys. They're not making it up. They're going to put it against all of the criteria that we've said. But they're going to make a determination. Again, they're going to have a little bit more understanding of all of the ones that are coming, as the council is. At that point, to Beth's question, then you're going to see whether there's, you know, a bunch over here of applications that are going to add 20 people, and, you know, and there's 5 people over here who are going to add a half-time person. That's when that's going to start falling out. Honesty, always the best policy, and letting them see the entire picture of the project, really important. That's going to show up in the sources in use really clearly. Here's the full, that's why there's a full project cost, and then we're asking for this much. That's why I gave the example of it's $1 million project. We're asking for $350,000 of, you know, from this piece, and the sources in use is going to show the entire project, not just this $350,000. So that's what they want to see. They want to see where this project either elevates or increases the reach of any given project, and the more you can show that other funders are involved, the better off you're going to be.
Can the collaboration be between nonprofit and private sector? Does it happen between nonprofits?
No, it can be. So, can you give me an example?
Where a nonprofit would be working with a business to develop a product or further their ability to.
I think they'd love one of those kind of projects. So no, it just has to be another collaborator who's willing to put juice in it, who's willing to have skin in the game. You can't just put somebody on as a collaborator just because they've got a great name and you think it's going to, you know, or they're somebody's best friend, you know, the governor, or somebody else that you think has an impact on this project. I mean, you want to make sure that whoever's coming in as a collaborator, and that's why there's the collaboration sheet, which says, this is their part of the project, this is the, you know, the impact, the resources that they're bringing, so that you can say exactly what the skin in the game is going to be. So they want people who are going to be able to be a full participating member of this project. Yes?
I see the advisory council has a to be determined from the town of Vernon. Who's making that decision?
They were waiting until they had some kind of an election, and I'm sorry, I was sitting in the meeting when they said, but there was some public election coming up, so or something that was happening on the select board, so it was Vernon who was asking to just have a TBA, to be determined in there until they decided who that was.
Select board that decides?
I think so. I think that's who was deciding, who was making that determination.
So just one caution to you, the IRS will be saying about that transaction, that's the essence program. So you have to be very careful.
Right, but that's a
Who gets
different
what
question.
From that process.
But there are a lot of, you know, from our perspective, looking at healthcare, there's a lot of private sector healthcare institutions that we collaborate with, provide services
Right.
out in the world.
Right.
So it's not always just nonprofits.
Right.
Well, healthcare gets to do pretty much what it wants.
Right.
Today.
So you just want to make
That's the
sure,
idea.
yeah, that everything, obviously, in the end is going to be legal. Questions? Comments? We've given you, so we're federally funded, and even though we're getting this money to do this job, we would like an evaluation of this tonight. Please be as candid as you'd like to be. It's anonymous. I won't check the color of your pen or, you know, the depth of your checks to see who you are and follow you into the parking lot, I promise. That's what these guys' jobs is, so just watch where they are at all times. Any other questions? I'm sure no one cares that we're not going until 8, or would you like me to talk about politics? You know, the fact that when I was making this program up, I literally set my kitchen timer. I did it at home so I could spread everything out, and I went through all of the materials. So I set my kitchen timer for every 2 hours, and got up and walked around, had something, had some water, did a little something. And I'm a Huffington Post person. I have a hard time with real news all day long. So, if you know Huffington Post, they've got the big picture, the main story, and then the right third has the blogs, the middle third has the hard news stories, and the right-hand side has the puffer pieces, so that if you can't stand, like me, too many of the hard news stories, like you just can't take it anymore, you can go over. That weekend that I was doing is Kim Kardashian passed 42 million Twitter followers. Which just, it just astounded me. Question?
The process next year, will it be on the same schedule as this, more or
We're
less?
hoping that the schedule actually happens sooner. We're hoping that the reason this was so late this year is there was a lot of reaction to last year's process. And the ACCD and BDCC and the council was formed. This council was formed as a way of addressing those issues from both the towns and the other people involved in the process to make sure that we addressed it. It took some time when you have that many people in the process. So we're, we're a little late this year, to be frank, but we're hoping that the process, that you guys like this process so much that the process doesn't have to change next year, and only the RFP announcement changes. So I would suspect that the RFP will come out at least by the end of the first quarter, if not the beginning of the second quarter next year. So this process for grant, for the nonprofit side should happen a whole lot sooner. For the business side, remember, once this is done, this is a revolving, the application is open and rolls. So, yes.
So if somebody came here today that they were going to wait to the next round, do they have to go through this process all over again?
I don't know whether, if they don't change it very much,
Right.
I will vote that you don't have to do it again. But I can't tell you that I won't be outvoted. But, unless there's something really spectacularly different, I don't think you need to sit and listen to me again. I think once is more than enough. Yes.
When is the next workshop?
The first grant application workshop is Monday, November 16th. It'll be the same time, 6 to 8, same location. The second grant workshop will be Monday, November 30th. If you're a business, the first business workshop will be Tuesday, November 17th, and the second one will be Tuesday, December 1st,
That's for a loan.
for a loan.
And are they the same workshops?
No, we're splitting, as you can see on this group. We felt very strongly, and because I was involved in the curriculum, that the LOI process was pretty much the same. You have to do a little bit of extra over here if you're, so you've got to do the blue ones if you're a nonprofit, you do the red ones if you're a business, but basically the intent was the same. When you get to the application processes, they are entirely different. The grants will go off and speak their, what did I say, Greek or Latin? Do you remember what I said? Yeah, whichever one I said before, you'll go off and speak that language, and then the businesses will go through a standard business application process for VITA.
But the two grant applications.
They're the same, you only have to do one of them.
Right.
You're gonna pick one.
So this round is to address the objectives or goals 3 and 5.
Yes, they will pick different. The RFP next year will be not 3 or 5.
Okay, that
I
was
would
my-
suspect that they will pick a different objective.
Okay.
This one, to tell you the truth, was picked to try to make it as broad as possible. I mean, look at 3 and 5. If you can't come up with something. Yes.
What was the objectives the first round? What were the?
They didn't, I don't, does anybody remember that?
It was all of them.
It was all of them. So it was much broader. And that was somewhat problematic. So they tried to be more specific this year and will be specific again for the subsequent rounds. Anybody else? If I'd done this as Donald Trump, would it have made any difference? Oh, okay, well then that's good. I'm glad you didn't leave. Guys, just give your, if you want this electronically, let whoever contacts you know. As I said, we're working on buying, we're a nonprofit too, and we don't have the fillable, our PDF program, but we're working on getting it. Please leave your evaluations. Thank you, Scott, for filling in the blanks for me. And please sign that you want, if you want assistance, please make sure you fill out that form that went around. Okay? Thank you, guys. Good night.